discouraged and very disillusioned with the things he had seen in the church, synagogue, in the house of worship, and amongst God's people. He was angry with the way things were. And by chance, he had come along and met the prophet Elijah, and he had cried out to him, "What is wrong? What's going on? Why are things the way they are? Why is there so much injustice? Why do the wicked prosper? And why do the good seem to always suffer?" Elijah agreed to answer him in this way. He invited him to come with him on a journey. And the only requirements that Elijah laid out was that he would ask no questions until the end. The rabbi agreed, and they went on their way. And after a time, they came to a small, humble home. It was obviously a home of people of very little means. Outside was a cow that was skinny and gave little milk. And they came and they knocked on the front door and were greeted by an elderly couple with great joy. They explained that they were men of God passing through and needed a place to rest. They welcomed him in, brought him into their home, washed their feet, gave him food and drink and a place to spend the night. They treated him like kings. And in the morning it was time to leave. The men rose. And as they left, Elijah raised his hands towards heaven and prayed. And then he laid his hands on the cow, and the cow fell over dead. The rabbi, once again incensed, said, "What is this? What are you doing? These poor people treated us like kings, and look what you did." And Elijah said, "No questions." And they moved on from there. They came to a rich man's house. It was big, it was beautiful, and they knocked on the door, needing a place to stay another night. There was no answer, and he knocked again, and no answer, and then finally they knocked, and some shutters opened from an upper story window, and the man leaned out and said, "Get away, you bums! Stop bothering me! What do you want?" He said, "We're men of God, sir. We're traveling here, and we need a place to stay." He said, "I have no room for you, but there's a barn in the back. If you'd like to sleep, you could sleep there." So the two men of God went out back into the barn, and it was a barn. There was animals. It smelled horrible. It was dirty. And the two men of God made their own place to sleep out of some hay that was laying around, and they spent the night. And in the middle of the night, a terrible storm came, and a great wind blew and knocked over a huge tree in the backyard of this rich man. And in the morning, the two men of God prepared to leave. And Elijah again stopped and raised his hands and prayed. And the tree was raised and placed back in the hole from where it came. And again the rabbi cried out. And Elijah again said, "Stop. No questions until the end." They moved on from there and came to a small synagogue. And outside were many people that were greeting them and happy and welcomed them into their home of worship. They found out who they were. They washed their feet. They gave them a seat of prominence in the front. Gave them food and drink, and when the time together was done, they wished him well. And Elijah stopped and prayed, "May the Lord bless you with one leader." And from there they went on. And then they came to another synagogue, a much larger synagogue. It was huge. The parking lot was just full of camels and donkeys. Making sure you're paying attention. It was a big church. and when they got there was nobody to greet them. They went inside. Nobody paid any attention to them. They weren't taken care of. They weren't recognized. They didn't wash their feet. Not only did they not have a seat of prominence, they didn't have a seat. They had to stand in the back. And when they left, Elijah raised his hands and prayed and said, "May the Lord bless you with many leaders." Now the rabbi had had enough. And he pulled Elijah aside, and Elijah said, "Okay, we're done." And the rabbi questioned him on all these counts. Why he did what he did that seemingly went against logic. And Elijah explained to him that things are not always as they seem. He said, "What you don't know is that first house while we were there and the family was taking care of me, the Lord spoke to me and said that the old lady was sick and about to die. And when we left, I prayed, Father, if there be a way, spare her life. And when I laid my hands on the cow, the Lord took the cow's life instead of the woman. And she was promised another 10 years. When we went to the rich man's house and the tree was blown over, what you don't understand is that when the tree was knocked over, it revealed a great, immense treasure of gold and silver that had been buried there before the tree was planted. And I prayed, and the Lord put the tree back so that this rich man would never realize the additional wealth he was sitting on. And at the first synagogue, when I prayed one leader on them, you've got to understand that with one leader comes singleness of purpose, singleness of vision, unity, and prosperity and growth. And when I prayed many leaders over the second house of worship, you need to understand with many leaders comes many ideas, many opinions, division, a congregation that's shrinking, not growing. I've learned that lesson, and it was captured like I just can't even express to you, and I hope it's being received by you the way I received it. Because what I've learned in my life is things aren't always as they appear. Maybe, just maybe, there's a reason for the things I've gone through. I've come to understand that had God answered my prayers at age 18 when I received Christ at that small Assemblies of God church in Massachusetts, and I laid on my face and I begged him, please, I know you can heal me, heal me. I don't want to lose my sight. Maybe what God knew was that in my 20s, when I walked away from God, was drinking way too much and abusing prescription drugs and smoking marijuana. That had he healed my eyes like I wanted, maybe I wouldn't be here today. Maybe I would have wrecked my car. Maybe I would have got hit when I was on my bike. I don't know. But I know one thing for sure. I'm called, if for no other purpose, than to encourage and edify the body. And I'm here to tell you, if I can survive, not to belittle anything that you go through, it's real, and it's deep, and it's personal. But you've got to understand, if someone has gone before you and endured something equal to or greater than, then so can you. Maybe, just maybe, the reason I had to come this close to within inches of my life at age 21 was so that not only would I learn to appreciate my life and how fragile it is and how little time I really have, to create a sense of urgency in my life and in ministry, that maybe, just maybe, that sensitivity spills over to you in the sense that I know how fragile life is and how yours, any one of yours, could be required of you tonight even. And created a sense of compassion and urgency in me that I never would have had otherwise. And maybe, just maybe, the divorce that I went through that I didn't